saw it on.
Okay, everybody, Mike Griffith here at Take Your Best Shots. I'm here with Jeff Varela, and Jeff is a old friend of mine. We met about 10 years ago through a mutual friend, Todd Fawson. And Jeff, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, this is good. So, you gave me an intro for you, and you said you were a sexaholic, gambleholic, and what was the other one?
Alcoholic.
But you said you're also the happiest man alive. So,
Right.
I mean, how does all that work?
All in jest, right? So
Yeah.
I like to have cocktails and like to have fun with friends. I guess the other two may be honest, sexaholic and gambleholic.
Well, better.
Yeah, that may be true, but no, it's just kind of my little tagline, and I am the happiest guy. Just recently retired after 35 years in the corporate world, and still able enough to have a lot of fun, a lot of golfing, a lot of traveling. So feeling pretty fortunate.
At 53 years old, you're retired?
54.
54?
Yep.
Wow,
54.
that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, Mike, I started thinking, and I got to thank my dad in all seriousness. Started making a pretty good wage, got in the electronic semiconductor industry at an early age. I was 19, going to college in the morning, and moved into sales. And back in '83, I went from making $4.25 an hour in the warehouse to making, my first year in sales was $43,000 back, and by then it would have been '84. And then onward and upward there, and I didn't need that much money to live, so I started investing, and at my dad's request. And I thank him every day, so things have worked out well.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
You're also a minister.
I am. I had a good friend, one of my best friends. We've been pals since we were in the 4th grade. And he was getting married, and he and his bride came to me and said, "Hey, Jeff, would you ever consider getting your license and marrying us?" Well, absolutely.
Where did that come from? I mean, how did that thought ever transpire? Like, I would have never thought of asking a buddy to get a license and marry me.
I honestly don't know. They came to me and asked me, and I checked into it, and I said, yeah, let's go. So we did it, and they got married. It's actually been a couple years now. September 9th is our anniversary. And as a little surprise, I went to the DMV, and I was going to get the license plate, the Rev. And they actually took my $110, and I was going to get the license plate, and then I got, about 2 weeks before the wedding, they said that the plate had been out since 2006, so I couldn't have it. So that was disappointing. But no, we had a good time. We got them married, and I've done 5 other weddings since then. So
5 other weddings.
Yeah, did them. Colorado, Dominican Republic, a few more here in Minnesota.
No, I was at the one at Dominican Republic. That almost was a disaster with that wind and rain.
Yeah, it was.
It was kind of quite the crazy one with Todd's wedding.
Yeah, it was too bad on the weather. The wedding was beautiful, fantastic setting, great bride and groom, great friends all attending, and unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't cooperate, so they had to shut down the microphones and everything. We were going to get electrocuted.
Yep,
but
I saw that. It was funny.
Fortunately, the marriage is going better than the weather was that day, so
well,
things
you know
are
what?
good.
You did a good job. I mean, with all those different things going on, with the electric going out, the music going out.
My notes going everywhere.
The notes were going everywhere. That was a classic.
Yeah.
So tell me, what else you've been doing since you retired? You've been golfing,
Yep.
playing tennis, or anything like that?
Pickleball, Mike. The new hot deal is pickleball for us old guys. So going and playing a little pickleball over in Richfield, and I get a kick out of it. I was a big racquetball player in my day, up until probably 6 years ago, and it just my elbow got so bad and my wrist from playing all the years, I couldn't do it anymore. And a buddy of mine, he's got a retirement home down in the Villages in Orlando, and all he talked all winter. When I was talking to him through the winter, he's like, playing pickleball today, played 12 games of pickleball, played 8 games of pickleball. I said, what the hell is pickleball? So he taught me pickleball and been doing a little bit of that. And
so who do you play with? Other old guys?
Yeah, and old ladies too. And
See, I've played pickleball down in Phoenix.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and it's some of those old ladies are brutal.
Yeah, no, they're serious
good.
about it. And
Yeah.
I was shocked, because again, me thinking, oh, I'm going to kick their ass and things like that. I play a lot of racquetball. I'm good up close at the net. I got quick reflexes. They were talented and had a lot of fun and got some exercise, and it kind of a big craze, man. There's new courts going everywhere up here in Minnesota.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, one of the things that's always been pretty cool with you, is that you grew up with a bunch of guys, and you're all friends today. And I look at that, and whenever you guys are together, it's like you go back into the mode of children, or and you've stayed friends for, I don't, 40 plus years now. But with a lot of these guys, and it's envious, because a lot of people, including me, will go, wow, I wish I had friends from back then that, and it's pretty cool. So talk about that. I mean, you've got, what, 5 of you, 4 of you that are really close?
Yeah, they're my buddy Kent, he and I have been pals since we were 4 years old. Literally moved into a new neighborhood back in Egan, Minnesota. Egan was a township of 3,000 people in 1968.
Wow.
And we moved in there, and Kent moved in about 2 weeks after we did, and we were 4 years old. We're now 54, so we've been buddies for 50 years. And I'm very close with his family, and very in tune to what his mom and dad are still doing, his brothers, sisters, and then obviously Kent. And along with a couple other buddies, Kent and I, Tom and Todd, we mentioned them earlier in the broadcast. Tommy and I have been pals since 4th grade. So what are you in 4th grade? 9, 10 years old. So that's 44 years. And then Todd and I were more high school. But then I got my buddy John. He's been since 2nd grade. And we just have kind of a core group that no matter, we've been through people in the service, in jail for a little stint, and we're all still pals, and actually we're all family. Really, I grew up an only child, so I absolutely understand what it is to have brothers, because I've fought with these guys, I've had a ball with these guys. We get pissed at each other, we get back and hug each other, so it's a family setting, and it is something that's very important to me.
So tell me about growing up as an only child. I have a brother and a sister. I had 4 children of my own. An only child. I mean, what is that like?
Well, I didn't know much difference until my junior year, and I'll get to that. But I think I got a lot closer to my dad than maybe I would have if I would have had siblings. I would have done the things with my siblings instead of doing them with my dad. So that was a positive, that I was extremely close with my dad growing up as an only child. Don't get me wrong, there were times I wish I would have had a brother or sister or a sibling. Back in the 70s, it's not like today where you get on a plane and you go on vacation and you're there in 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. We drove. We'd go every August for a couple of weeks, and we drove, right?
Yep,
so
same thing.
Cool thing about that is, I eventually got to all 50 states because we would go out and go out to D.C. in that area and up into Maine, and then come back through Canada and then shoot down to Minnesota. Yeah. But I would always bring a cousin along. I was very close with my cousin. So growing up without siblings, I think a couple of the benefits were closer to my pops, and then I was very close to my cousins, and we were fortunate to be close in age, and so I would spend a lot of time down in Iowa with them in the summer, and they would come up, and then when we went on vacations, I had a couple of male cousins that would come along, and it is what it is. I would have liked siblings, and I had a lot of fun with my cousins, but now with my boys, it's like siblings. So
absolutely,
we'll be friends without a doubt, no matter what happens, where we go, till they put us.
Now, how do you think the secret is to maintain those relationships? Because I look back at my past, and we just kind of drifted away. We were thrown around like seeds in the springtime in the country. Everybody's in different places, and we just kind of lost touch. So, I mean, how do you keep that relationship going? I mean, how do you do it? Y'all pretty much the same today than you were back then, or I mean, how is it?
Yeah,
because y'all have different jobs.
Yeah.
It's not like you're all white collar or all blue collar. You're mixed in every little thing that you could possibly imagine. So, how do you keep it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I think, and an interesting one, you may not know this, our common friend, Todd and I, we drifted away one time for about a year and a half. And really didn't know how it happened. Pretty soon, I wasn't calling him, he wasn't calling me. I think we were both kind of newly married, so we had a lot of stuff going on. And that was really the only other time. There was no hard feelings. Nobody did anything wrong. But I think it's just communication. I think it's, I reach out. If I haven't talked to him in a day or two, I reach out, or if he hadn't talked to me in a day or two, he reaches out. So it's just, and now easier than ever, right, with the texting and the cell phones and stuff. We've been pals back when you had to, hey, I'll be down at the corner store. Call me there if anything's going on. Or, I'll be over at Joey's house. Give me a call at Joey's. So it's a lot easier now. So I think, I truly believe each person reaching out and communicating. It's that simple.
I think that's quite amazing that you guys are 50-year-old men
and you still keep in touch with each other for, every 2 days.
Oh yeah.
I don't even talk to my own kids sometimes for, a week.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool that you guys have maintained that.
It is cool, and it's something that's very near and dear to me. I don't take it for granted, and it's very special to me. I love those boys. I tell them that. They tell me they love me, and that's what it is.
Special friendship, I think. I mean, you guys, when I'm with you, it's fun.
Yeah.
You guys have fun, and that's the bottom line, I think, too, is that you have lots of fun when you're together. You're happy when you're together. And to me, it was pretty cool that you guys kind of accepted me when I show up as, one of Todd's buddies, and now you and I are sitting here, and Tom Block, he built my deck, and, I'm not in that group, but I'm kind of on the outside, and I really appreciate you guys because you have that close, tight knit, that group mentality that you're all in it together, and, one person isn't thrown out and cast away. You try to pull them in.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you maintain? I mean, how do the kids today, do you think, with their cell phones? They think they have 1,000 friends on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and it's really not that close of a friendship in a lot of ways.
No, I couldn't agree more, Mike, and that scares me. People don't know how to communicate anymore. Everything's done via. I mean, whether you're in business or you're a child thinking you have this whole group of friends, but all those friends are on your phone, right? And you Instagram this one. Oh, that's my friend. No, friends are when you get together and you ride your bike down to the store. Or friends are when you're outside playing kick the can at midnight, or you're playing games. I'm concerned for my own kids. I have a 28-year-old son. He's off and running. He's got a good set of friends. My daughter, she'll be 18 here next week. She's more the one that I'm concerned about, only in the fact that she doesn't do as much. I mean, boy, Mike, I bet I would venture to guess that when you were 16, 17, and 18, you were barely at home. I mean, you were off running and gunning with your buddies from morning till night. There were days I didn't show up for 2 or 3 days, I'd call Mom and say, I'm staying over at Shannon's house, or I'm staying at Todd's house, and that was it. We worked. We would show up for work because we had to have money in our jeans to pay for gas and some food and some beer. And nowadays, it just scares me that kids think, oh, I got all these friends, but if they were really in a pickle, who would you call to come and back you up for something?
Right.
Who would you call? Right. Now, my younger daughter's a little bit the antithesis of that, where she's still into technology, but she is out with her friends constantly. They're a lot more like we were. 2, 3, 4 of them stay at each other's house all the time. They're always doing activities, not sitting on the phone Instagramming back and forth. And again, they still use technology, but that's what I see that was a normal childhood to me, what our younger one is.
When I was growing up, we would leave the house in the morning. We wouldn't come back until the end of it was dark.
Yep.
And there was no questions asked. And I let my children do that too. There's a lot of people, especially mothers, I believe today, they're scared of letting their kids outside, and they don't allow that type of thing to happen. Where when we were kids, our parents were like, "Go, get out of the house."
Absolutely.
Because if you're here, I'm putting you to work. Yep. I don't know if that was your upbringing, but they, would put me to work.
Yeah.
So I said, "Fuck it, I want to get out of here, because I don't want to work." Plus, it was more fun being with your buddies.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that, technology at the time. We didn't have any of that. So if you wanted to go see somebody, you had to ride your bike, you had to drive, you had to do whatever.
Absolutely.
And then you had that rotary phone.
Well, you didn't have the phone to say, hey, where are you guys at? So you'd take your bike and you'd say, all right, they playing baseball up at this park? Nope, not here. Maybe they're over at Lee's house. I'm going to go over to that park over there. I bet you they're there.
Yeah.
And that's what you would do. You talked about working in chores. It just brought a funny story to my mind. Again, only child, so as I got older, it was my job to mow the lawn, and that's fine. And it just invariably always seemed, when it was to mow the lawn day, right, Dad would say, hey, the lawn needs to be mowed today. There would be a good game going on, a good softball game, good baseball game, whatever the case may be. So we had this old Toro lawnmower, and I'd get it on the side of the house, and it was pretty steep, and I would just tip it just right, not where it would tip over, but oil or something must leak on the muffler, and it made this terrible white smoke. And I'd go run in the house. Mom, that damn lawnmower's smoking. Oh, just leave it till Dad gets home. He can take a look at it. by then, the oil would dry off, and he'd start it up and go, "There's nothing wrong with it." And he'd finish the lawn,
No,
So.
Look at you, a little trickster.
Little tricks. And okay, so you just made the analogy. Your Amsterdam is my Vegas. The thing I like about Vegas When you're tired, you sleep. When you're horny, you get busy. When you're hungry, you go eat. And the clock doesn't matter. It's an adult playground. You do whatever you want, no matter what the clock says. And I love that. I don't know why. Nobody looks at you weird when you get up at 8:30 in the morning, you go down and have a Bloody Mary or whatever. You're sitting right next to people, some that haven't slept and some that are just getting up like me.
Right.
And then I love to gamble. So I love casino life. I like to play craps, blackjack, and sports bet. Those are my vices. And I just love the atmosphere. Everybody out there is happy for the most part. You get some sore losers. If they lose a few bucks, they get pissed off. But outside of that, people are there to have a good time. So if you're sitting in a bar having cocktails, people are wanting to chat and, where are you from? And just meet some great fun people over there.
What kind of people have you met? I mean, just out of the blue. Anybody famous or anybody that's been odd or
a lot of odd.
Yeah, because I think that Vegas, I've looked at some of the videos and stuff, and there's a lot of weird people out there.
A ton of weird people. Yeah, that's part of the fun, right? Is people watching, almost like the Minnesota State Fair, man. You see all kinds.
Yeah.
My most famous, I suppose, I've been out to a lot of boxing matches over the years, and also, since UFC's gotten popular, we've kind of gone to more UFC fights. But my greatest brush with fame was Muhammad Ali.
Oh.
So I was out there for a Tyson Botha fight, and I came off the elevators, and everybody was gathered around. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And they said, Ali and his family are right there. So I worked my way up. He's always kind of been one of my favorites.
Yep, same here.
So I worked my way up, and I put my left hand on his shoulder, and I said, how you doing, champ? And I reached out, and, he was shuffling by then. God, what would that have been? Maybe early 90s. He was shuffling, but he gave me one hell of a handshake, and, you could make out he said, doing good, and gave me a hell of a firm handshake. And then I just backed off after that because his family, they were walking to a restaurant, and I just kind of stood behind. I was like a little kid, man. And my knees were weak, and I was like, wow, I just shook the champ's hand. That's unbelievable.
That's pretty cool, man. I didn't know that story. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then, Tiger Woods tried to hit on my wife. That was good humor. I won't bore you with a bunch of Vegas, but the one, we were sitting having dinner.
Oh, no, I'm not going to let you go with that Tiger Woods story. You got to tell me about it.
So we were sitting in the Brown Derby, it was called, steak joint in the MGM. Having a nice dinner, and my wife looks up and she goes, oh my God, she goes, there's Tiger Woods. And literally, it couldn't have been, I'll say 10 feet, and it may have been closer. They were just kind of in a booth. We were at a table, they were in a booth, and it was him and his buddy Jerry Chang, who was a real tight friend of his at the time. And so I, get back to my cocktails and my steak, and, we're visiting, but of course you can't help but look, right? I mean, that's when he was just absolutely kicking ass. And we were out there for a Jimmy Buffett show. We're big parrot heads. We went 24 years in a row to Buffett, sometimes twice in a year before we had kids. He would play there in April and then in October. So we were out there, and I was walking out, and everybody was peeking in there, and they're like, looking in. I'm like, you guys looking at Tiger Woods? They said, no, Buffett's in there. So I darted back in, right? I'd seen Tiger, so I dart back in to go see Jimmy Buffett. So as I go in, my wife just waited for me at the entrance. When I go back, there's Tiger Woods chatting her up.
Really?
Yeah, so I go back up. I'm like, hey, Tiger, how you doing? Well, then he kind of just took off. And it was funny because we followed him through the casino. And he's a big man. I mean, he's probably 6'1", but he was pretty thick at the time. I mean, his shoulders are broad, and he was walking with conviction, man. As he's walking through a busy casino, I'm sure he's used, not wanting just to get constantly stopped. So he was walking with conviction. We were keeping up with him, but to watch the people's faces as they passed him, everybody would just turn around with a startled look. Oh my God, that's Tiger Woods! That's Tiger Woods! So
that wasn't you that they were having that awestruck?
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
That wasn't me.
Well, that's cool. Anybody else out there?
But I did get the pretty girl.
You did. You won.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, you see a lot of guys. I got to be good friends with Dean Garrett, an old NBA player from. He was on the undefeated Indiana team, and then played for the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. And here we're in Minnesota.
Yeah, he played for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, he was on that undefeated Bobby Knight team that won the national championship. He was a center on that team.
Right.
And we got to be good pals and stayed friends when we met in Vegas. But he would call me Minneapolis, because when I introduced, I don't think he remembered my name, so I was always, hey, Minneapolis, what's going on?
Right.
So then we got to be friends. He bought part of a restaurant called Bella Notte right across the street from Target Center, where the Timberwolves play. So we would go down there, buddies and I would go down and have cocktails, and then after the game we'd sit and have dinner with him and his pals, his posse, right? So we were part of his posse, and just a hell of a nice guy.
Wow.
Think he gambled a little too much. So I know he's a host now over at the New York. But he was a lot of fun, and he had a couple guys that we would see out there. This guy named Kenny King, what a character he was. So we'd always play a lot of craps with them and have fun. So that was fun. Dean's a hell of a good guy.
So what kind of sports do you gamble on? I mean, everything?
Pretty much.
Yeah, everything.
Pretty much.
It's not like some guys just do football or some guys just do one or horses. But you do anything?
Yeah, to this level, Mike. We were out there one day, and we were cashing a football ticket in. And I was in the sports book, and I noticed that Germany, and let's just call it Spain, I don't really remember the other team, that was playing soccer. It was just a friendly, but it was on the book, so you could bet it, right? It was up on the board. So I said, all right, give me $1,000 on Germany. So I put my $1,000 in. I get my ticket. I got $1,000 on Germany. So we go sit down and play blackjack. And again, been there many times, so I know this particular pit boss. And I said, hey, Mary, can you put that Germany-Spain game on? And she looked at me and she goes, soccer? I said, yeah. And she laughed. She thought I was kidding. I said, no, I'm serious. I got a bet on it. So my squad's down 1-0, and I'm watching. I'm trying to play blackjack, watching the TV, right in the sports pit, or right in the blackjack pit. And all of a sudden, my team scores with about 4 minutes to go. Tied it up. At least I get my money back, right? So I go back up there. I'm all excited to get my $1,000 back. I go up and hand him my ticket, and the guy said, "This is a loser." I said, No. I said, they tied. He said, "Sir, in soccer, you either bet Spain, Germany, or a tie. It's 3 separate bets." So I didn't get my money back.
So what made you bet on Germany, Spain? Just out of a whim?
Just out of a whim. We were standing there, and I saw it was going. I got to have action, man. That's part of that gambleholic thing, Mike. I got to have action.
Yeah. Now, Michael Jordan was a big gambler. Did you ever run across him out in Vegas?
No, but I ran across Charles Barkley quite a bit. He was a big MGM guy, and the stories he would tell, right? So, again, I've been staying at the MGM for however long it's been open. I think it's about 25 years right now, 26. You get to know the same people, and that's the joy of going back there. You walk in, and the pit boss Greg says, "Hey, Greg or Jeff, is Terry with you? Or are you with the boys?" Or they literally get to know you, and that's a lot of the fun. And you sit down, and you know a lot of the same blackjack dealers, and you know who you like to play with and don't play with. But once you get to know them a little bit, it's kind of like you're asking me, did you run across any famous people? Hey, have you ever dealt to famous people? And they said Michael Jordan is the cheapest sumbitch that you will ever meet.
Really?
And they said guys like Dennis Rodman, Charles Barkley, absolutely fantastic. Generous, having a good time. Jordan's just stoic. He's there. The one dealer said his wife was dealing to him, and he won $5.3 million and never tipped anybody.
Really?
Not anybody bringing him a drink, not the dealer, nothing. So that's the story I heard about Michael Jordan, but I do know he loves to gamble. It's Charles Barkley. That's well documented. How much he likes to gamble, and I see him at the Super Bowl party every year that the MGM has.
So you go to the Super Bowl party. I knew that.
Yep.
But what is that like? I mean, is that like just a free for all, the same people showing up, or is there new people coming in all the time? Or
yeah, I think there's new people. I think they're regulars. They invite them to. It's a really nice deal. It's in the Grand Garden Arena where they have the boxing matches, the concerts, and stuff. It's an arena that holds about 13,000, and they push the seats back and the floor. They make living rooms there for their high-end guys. And there's just table and station after station of food, booze, whatever you want. And they always have a cheerleading squad in there that looking just beautiful and running games and just having fun. So, the last Super Bowl I was not at was the Rams-Tennessee game. That was the last one. I think that was probably about 20 years ago, maybe 19 years ago. So I go out there every year, and it used to be my wife and I, and then she was pregnant with would have been our youngest daughter, and then my brother-in-law stepped in, and she hasn't been back for Super Bowl since. So now it's just the guys. Now it's just the guys' trip.
The guys' trip.
And now my son, once he got out of the Army, he came back. He got out in July. I think he was 21 or 2. So that August we went out, and now he and his crew come out every Super Bowl. So now it's going on to the next generation, and. He brings his boys out, and we all have a good time, raise a little hell, and tell some stories.
So what do you think about the Vikings' chances this year? I know that's a question from the blue, but...
Yeah, well, what I think...
Are you going to put money on them? How about that?
I do have money. Their total wins was 10, so I have the over total wins of 10. And I think they're going to be the skill spots are fantastic, right? I think Cousins is going to be a great, but I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. Dalvin Cook looked fantastic the first game. Our Achilles heel on that team, the defense goes without saying, one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. I would put them in Jacksonville as the top 2 defenses. Our Achilles heel is going to be the offensive line. You know, if they can get it together, get some healthy, people back healthy, I think they got a shot. I mean, Vegas had them as the second favorite in the NFC. So they say AFC, based on Vegas lines, the AFC will be represented by New England, and the NFC at plus 500, which means basically you get 5-1 on the Rams, and then the Vikings were plus 550, so just a slightly behind the Rams.
And who's third? Eagles?
The Eagles were tied with the Vikings at plus 550, and then Green Bay was plus 600, and New Orleans was, up there. So they kind of have one of those 5 teams, and the rest were way down.
Okay.
So I think the Vikings got a good chance. This will be a telling game this weekend at Green Bay with Rodgers. Neither team looks spectacular week 1, obviously outside of Rodgers' amazing comeback in the second half. But yeah, okay. I think they got a shot.
Explain that to me. I'm not a gambler.
Okay.
I don't gamble at all. So when you put, let's say, $1,000 on the Vikings, what would you win?
Well,
under those Vegas odds.
Yeah, so the point spread is what determines to try and even it out, right? So if you bet a baseball game, it's they call it a money line. So if you have a team that's the New York Yankees are a way better team than the Minnesota Twins, the New York Yankees may be minus 200, and that means you have to put up 200 to win 100. And conversely, if you bet the Minnesota Twins in that particular game, you would put up 100, you would win $180 profit.
Okay.
Okay? So you'd get back your 100 plus 180 in profit. And then that 20 cents between the guys that bet the Yankees minus 200 and the guys that bet the Twins plus 180, that's the casino's take. That's called the vig, the juice, whatever you want to call it. Now in football, it's a point spread. So when the Vikings just played San Francisco, the Vikings were favored by 6.5 points. So in essence, how you look at that is the game starts, it's 6.5-0 San Fran over the Vikings.
Okay.
And that's the way it rolls. So the Vikings win by 8. If you bet the Vikings, you won by 1.5. If you bet San Fran, you lose 1.5. And with that particular bet, with the point spread, if you put up 100, you get back 90. It's they call it minus 110. Again, that's the juice for Vegas. Because what Vegas wants is $100,000 on the San Francisco, $100,000 on the Vikings, and they get 10% on the losers. So if you lose an extra 10%. So if you want to win $100 on the Vikings, you got to put up 110. If you win that bet, you'll get back your 110 plus the $100 profit. So you get 210 back.
All right.
Yep.
So when you have a scenario like basketball, is it also a point spread?
Point spread, yep.
And it's the same scenario you just did with football?
Same scenario.
Okay,
yeah.
That's cool. Now, when you go out and play blackjack, is it just the same kind of blackjack that you used to play when you were kids?
Absolutely. Yeah. Same. I play the same basic rules. The one thing I would say after being a gambler all these years is people don't believe in, I call it a run. Things go in, like cycles. I mean, when you're hot, you're hot. I mean, you're hitting 15s and you're getting 5s and 6s. When you're cold and on a bad run, you'll have 19, the deal will have 20 or 21. And you have to, the public does opposite of what they should. So they feel like when they're on a bad run, I'm going to bet more because I'm due to win this one. I'm due to win this one. And then when people are on a run where they're winning, they can't seem to lose, they back off because they say, God, I'm due to lose. I'm going to back off. That's where you can make money. You got to get aggressive when you're on one of those positive runs. And when you get on a negative run, you got to pull your bets back and ride it out till it starts to turn a little bit. And again, I conservatively have been in Vegas 120 times. That's conservative.
That's amazing.
And I've seen it. I've played them. I've made mistakes, and I've done very well. There's an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, you don't do that betting $200 a hand, right? But once I got hot, and by the way, the last 3 hands I bet, I lost a $5,000 hand and 2 $2,000 hands. So I was up $49,000, but then I was smart enough to realize I just lost 3 in a row. I'm out. And I took my profits.
Okay.
And that was an hour and 10 minutes.
So you must get some kind of high off of that, like some kind of adrenaline rush or something. Because that's, to me, I'd be too scared to do that. I'd pull away. So you have to have some balls, but then the adrenaline has to be there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it must be just a rush.
And the one thing is gambling over the years. When I started gambling when I was younger, I had a local bookie and I would bet $50, $100 a game, right? And then after a few years of that, you just didn't get that rush after a $100 game.
Right.
So now I have to have a $300 game, or it's got to be $500. Oh, it's Monday night. I got to put $500 on this one. Whether you like the game or not, or you thought you knew what was going to happen, got to have a big bet because it's Monday Night Football. So it can get the rushes can get a little more expensive.
Yeah, because I just don't feel that when I do the gambling. I just don't get that rush.
Yeah.
But I see how people do it. I have friends that are big gamblers, and they love it.
Yep.
I mean, they're not scared of losing.
No, that's I have one friend that teases me all the time. What comment did I make? I said the second best time I had in the casino, I lost, or something like that. I mean, the point was, it's fun to win, but even if you lose, I still have a ball when I'm at the casino. And it is, it's kind of strange. You have to have the mentality. You have to forget it's money, and you just look at it as a chip. Okay, that's a red chip, that's a black chip, that's a pink chip, and not think that chip's a $5,000 chip, that's a $1,000 chip, that's a $500 chip. So you just got to think of it as chips, and not a lot of people can do that. There's a lot more people out there that can afford gambling more than I can, but they just don't have that mentality, and it would kill them to lose $1,000 more than the joy would be of making $1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I understand that. Now, have you ever golfed or bet on golf?
I've been...
Because I see that as getting bigger and bigger, or at least it was a couple years ago, on people betting on golf.
Yeah, I've bet on Ryder Cups. I've bet on picking guys, like I'll pick 3 or 4 guys when the Masters come around. You kind of put maybe a Dustin Johnson in at maybe 6-1 or 7-1, but then you'll take a flyer and say, I'm going to take Sergio Garcia at 25-1 and see if I can, get a little bit lucky. I had, what the heck was the English guy's name? I can't even remember. He won it about 3 years ago, and just obscure. And I heard somebody out at the Hastings Country Club where I belonged, they were talking about this kid. So I said, I'm going to put a bet on him. And he won. And I turned $100 into about $4,800.
Wow,
he was
cool.
48-1, right? So he goes off at 48-1. So I put $100 on.
So what sports won't you bet on? Because anything, you'll bet on anything. You bet on soccer, golf.
I've
football.
bet on the WNBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, football, obviously, college, pro, soccer.
How about UFC?
Absolutely. Yeah, one of my worst beats. So, as I told you, we go out to a lot of the fights. I think I was at every one of Brock Lesnar's fights except the one he had out in California. So we're out there. It's the first time he fights Frank Mir. I'm at the deal. He was a 165 favorite, so I had to put up 1,650 to win 1,000. And he comes out, and I'm with my brother-in-law and another buddy, and he just completely goes apeshit on Mir, right? He's just beating him. Mir's a bloody mess. He's got Mir down, and he's pounding him. And I'm screaming at my brother-in-law. He's a wrestler. He doesn't know what to do. He should submit this guy. He should do something, right? So he gets frustrated. Lesnar gets frustrated, stands up over him, and just kind of wants to pile drive him. When he did that, Mir took his ankle and his knee and twisted him, and he tapped out. And I'm just screaming. I'm like, you freaking idiot. You're a wrestler. Tie him up. Do something, whatever you wrestlers do. I mean, Mikey, you would know that. But, he completely shit the bed, and I lose my $1,650 when I should have won. I mean, he just destroyed him. And then the next time they fought, they do a rematch, of course, and he just completely destroyed Mir. So.
Well, you'll find that wrestlers aren't always the smartest people out there. I'm sure you've already known that. You know what I mean?
For those of you out there, Mike's a former wrestler, so
yeah.
he speaks with knowledge.
Speaking of that, did you know at one point, Todd and I, our friend Todd, we were going to wrestle each other, put singlets on, and see who would win.
I do remember.
And we were going to do it for charity. And then we realized like 3 people would show up.
and you old bastards would get hurt. Somebody would
hurt. There would be an ambulance coming to see us.
Right, yeah.
So we we backed off of that idea. But we've had that ongoing argument for years of who would win.
Yeah.
And Todd's got ankles the size. He's got bird legs.
He does.
And I said I would just destroy you because that's where I would go. And he was like, "No, I'm too fast for you," and all that stuff. So it's good-natured fun.
Yeah, no, that is. I do remember Todd was telling me about that. Said you guys were going to have a little wrestle off. So,
and Debbie, his now wife, had started to hear us talk about that, and she was just like, "Todd, you're not doing it. You're not doing it." Because he had shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
And that would have just been one area I would have gone after.
Yeah, because neither one of you goofballs would have quit, right? So
Right.
you're both going to go until one of you drops dead.
Right.
So
Or have a heart attack or
yeah,
something
exactly.
like that. So.
Hey, it's take your best shots. You want to take a shot?
Just well should.
All right.
I'm ready.
So, when we talk about sports and wrestlers and UFC and all that stuff, I kind of like the UFC. I liked how they combined the martial arts with the wrestling and the boxing, and I really like that sport. I think it's much more entertaining than, let's say, fights that you see in the boxing ring. I don't find those entertaining anymore. The latest, what was that, Mayweather and Pacquiao fight?
Yeah,
I looked at that and just said, this is stupid. And maybe it's just because we're getting so ingrained with the UFC and that level of violence that the boxing is now almost like it's powder puff.
Well, I agree, and I actually paid $100 to get the Mayweather McGregor fight, right, where you took a crossover to UFC. So I gave my $100 for that fight, and it was better than I thought. McGregor did a good job. Part of it, not Mayweather. McGregor did a good job. Part of it, I think Mayweather toyed with him a little bit. I would like to have a conversation with him and say, was that balls to the wall from the start, or did you kind of just feel him out a little bit? Didn't want to get caught, so you kind of laid back. Because it seemed like in that 8th and 9th round, when he wanted to get to McGregor, he could get to him and he could beat him up pretty good. So, but with respect to UFC, I don't think there's any doubt, Mike, that sport has surpassed boxing. No question. I think you have larger than life characters in the UFC, like the McGregors when the Lesners were there. Some of the turnoff, and I'm surprised by some of my buddies that are turned off by the sport, is the violence. Our buddy Todd, he's not a big fan of it. And he was a wrestler, he was a fighter, he raised plenty of hell, but he's turned off. He said, I can't watch it. He said, I can't watch guys get smashed, kicked, kneed in the face like that. He said, it really bothers me. But it's a sport I do enjoy, and they're in there on their own free will, but it can get pretty savage. I was actually at the Anderson Silva fight. I don't know if you remember this. He went to do a kick, and they went shin to shin, and literally snapped his leg. And I was sitting by a guy that had the most amazing picture. I said, dude, you run right to Sports Illustrated, you'll sell that picture for freaking thousands. It showed where Silva's leg wrapped around his opponent's leg, and you could see the bottom of his foot. You could see the bottom of his foot on the opposite side. So it's like his leg wrapped around, and you could see the bottom of his foot in this picture. It just completely compound snapped his leg.
Did he sell that picture?
I have no idea. I didn't know the guy. He's just like, look at this picture I got. Salute.
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 Olga would be...
Good match.
Olga would be distraught right now because we just took a shot of warm vodka, not cold.
They like it cold, yeah.
They like it cold.
Yeah.
But no, I like UFC, but the one part that I just can't get into is when the women fight.
Yeah.
It just bores me. There's not, there's some of the violence, but they just aren't like, they're slower. They're just, I just don't, and they're women, and that's harder for me to, to get into that.
Yeah. I know I've been to a Rousey fight, Ronda Rousey, and I enjoyed it. They're still badasses, but I would agree with you, Mike, and I think that's any sport. Go to a WNBA game versus an NBA game, right? And I don't want to disrespect the women, because I have 2 wonderful daughters myself, but the fact of the matter are, men are quicker, men are faster, men can jump higher. Doesn't take any of the talent away from a Lindsay Whalen or Maya Moore or any of these superstar women. It's just different, right?
Yeah, basketball to me I can watch.
Okay.
It's the
UFC.
The UFC when they just are bloodying each other up, and I'm just like, you know, my image of a woman is not that.
Right.
So that's you know,
Yeah.
you know, they're attractive women when they get into the ring, but when they leave, some of them aren't so.
No.
And but I do like the UFC.
Yeah. No, it's definitely taken over. And what's interesting to me, Mike, is you sit and look at the purses, the prize money, right? Now, they're the McGregors are getting the boxing type money, but that's very rare. You look at boxing over the years has paid their superstars by far much higher than the UFC. Lesnar kind of changed that. Even guys like Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, some of the pioneers of that sport, they were the ones that helped build it, right? But Dana White, the guy that was one of the founders, he really held back on the prize money, and there was nowhere for these guys to go. So he kind of put the screws to them. You know, they could still make a good living, but they weren't making $20-25 million a fight like Pacquiao, like Mayweather, like a lot of boxers, right? The heavyweights, when the heavyweight division was strong in boxing, these guys were making 25-50. Well, you know, now the Mayweather friggin' Pacquiao fight, Mayweather made 300.
Right.
You know, Pacquiao made 150 million. So I find that interesting that the UFC has been able to, again, they pay their fighters well, a lot more money than you and I'll ever make, right? But nothing like boxing. Nothing like boxing, and I don't know why that is, because their sport is certainly, you're going to get hurt a lot easier in the UFC than you are in boxing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you look at boxing, though, do you think that's a long-term sport? Because I see it collapsing.
Yeah.
Eventually, because there's just not the interest that there used to be.
Well, there's
Because
no,
it used to be the only game in town.
Well, and you had characters, man. You look back to the heavyweight, go back a lot farther down to the Ali, right? When you had the Frazier, the Norton, the Foremans, the Alis. I mean, think about that, right? You had 4 mega superstars all battling for that belt. You know, then Tyson came and kind of resurrected that whole heavyweight division. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, people.
Well, Holmes was after
Larry
everybody,
Holmes,
but he kind of bored everybody.
He was a boring fighter.
He was. He was not a personality.
Nope.
He had none of that
Nope.
charisma that you normally got out of some of these guys. Even, you know, when Leon Spinks beat Ali, you remember? It was just because he had just won the gold medal in Montreal. It was amazing to see him come in and pound him. And he was a character.
Yeah.
The whole Spinks family was there.
He had the old vampire teeth on. Right? He had the fangs.
Which one
down
had
the
he had a gap, right? Michael or Leon had the gap?
Leon had the gap, and then Michael and Leon also. It was more than a gap. It was one hell of it. I think he was missing his front 2 teeth, right? He had the 2 fangs, and that was Leon. And then Michael was more of the light heavyweight that went up to the heavyweight to kind of get into that money.
Right.
And his last fight was against Tyson, and you could just tell he was shitting his pants. I mean, when he was coming out, it's like, I just want to get hit so I can get out of here. And that's basically what happened. 90 seconds later, the fight was over.
Well, I think that Tyson was amazing. I mean, his early fights, he'd just come out and he would fuck people up.
Brutality.
I mean, I think if you got him in the UFC ring when he was in his prime, he would destroy these people.
Yeah.
Because he had just an anger inside him.
Well, and a punch that just, you know, it was unbelievable. The power he had in that punch. And it's a shame. It's a shame when Customato died. That really sent Tyson into a tailspin. And I think that money, too. I mean, they said he made $300 to $400 million over his career. And, for all intents and purposes, he's pretty much dead broke. I think he's doing a little better now. But Customato was his mentor and trainer, and when he died, kind of just went off the rails. And I'm sure Don King got his hand into him and, abused Mike's finances a little bit because he was not the most solid citizen, Don King, that is.
Is Don King still alive?
He is.
Wow, he's got to be an old-timer.
Yeah.
I bet you his hair isn't all straight anymore.
It'll hell of a lot grayer. So.
Yeah, hell yeah.
No, so I don't know. It'll be interesting on boxing. Mayweather, there was some excitement with Mayweather, but right now, I mean, could you name a heavyweight boxer for me?
I can't.
I can't either.
And that's one of the reasons that the sport is dying, I think.
Yeah.
It's just not there.
No.
It's not there. Now, do you place any bets on hockey?
Absolutely.
You like hockey?
Yeah. I just, matter of fact, I was in Las Vegas for Game 5 when the Caps beat Vegas. We flew in that day of Game 5, not for that reason. We just happened to be in. It was June 7th, actually. And I was going out for a Drew Brees. I was invited to a Drew Brees charity deal. So we went out on Thursday. We had a meet and greet with Drew on Friday, and then a little charity golf deal on Saturday. But anyhow, we got in there on Thursday, and we went over to T-Mobile Arena, and it was Game 5. And I played. I felt like the Washington was going to take them out, so I I teed Washington up every which way. I bet them on the money line. I bet them on the -1.5 goals, which pays much better. I bet the over every which way, and had a hell of a payday on the Capitals. And the funny thing was, the next morning I'm laying in bed at the MGM, and they show Ovechkin coming through the MGM with the Stanley Cup. I'm like, what the hell? Well, how'd we miss that? And they said it was at 5:30 in the morning. I said, oh yeah, I was long in bed by then, you know.
Yeah,
so yeah, they came strolling through there with the Stanley Cup at 5:30 in the morning. So, but yeah, I was out there in June and had a bunch of bets on the hockey.
Okay, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Now, is there one thing that I think is you have so much knowledge on gambling and sports and betting and stuff like that. You know, you might want to start a podcast of your own because people would love to hear that knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm completely serious on that specific niche. You would have a lot of listeners that would listen to your advice, whether it's gambling on sports or cards or just the philosophy of doing it, because you've got 120 times in Vegas, but you probably have gambled for what? 40 years now? Solid?
Oh, Mike, this is the God's honest truth. When we were kids, on my mom's side of the family, they all grew up. They were all in Iowa. We had a family farm in northwest corner Iowa, and we would get together for holidays. And all of our godparents were my mom's brothers and sisters, right? So my godparents was my mom's oldest sister, and then my cousin Steve, his godparents were my mom and my dad, right?
Right.
So what the parents would do. And this no bullshit. What the parents would do is give us all a roll of nickels and a roll of dimes for Christmas. Each kid got from their godparents a roll of nickels and a roll of dimes. And us kids at 7, 8, and 9 years old, we would play cards for them, poker. We would go pitch them. We'd put a bowl out in the living room, and then you stood back, 8, 10 feet, and you try and bounce them in, and whichever one stayed in the bowl, then you got to keep all the dimes that were around it. And invariably, one kid would leave with a big Pringles can full of change, right? And all the rest of us, that was it. So I literally grew up in a gambling family.
Did you ever walk home with the Pringles can full of nickels and dimes?
Oh yeah, I had my fair share.
More than not?
Good runs. Yeah, I had good runs. Yeah, I was pretty good at pitching nickels and pitching dimes, and we had a good time.
Well, I think that there's a niche for you there. We'll have to talk about that later, but.
Yeah, I had a winner for it. I had a few guys call me last night, and they said, what do you think on the Thursday night game, Baltimore at Cincinnati? So they're all asking my opinion, and I said, here's what I think. I think Baltimore's the better team. I said, they're only favored by 1 point. That makes no sense to me. Vegas is smart. So I said, if I was to just look at that game, I'd say Baltimore should cover that spread. But I said, because the spread looks so weird, I said, Cincinnati will cover that game. I said, bet Cincinnati. And sure enough, Cincinnati won the game. Because it made no sense.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's stuff like a normal street person wouldn't know.
Nope.
Because they don't have that 40 years of experience. And so there are a lot of people today that are trying to figure out how to gamble.
Yeah.
And they're unsuccessful at it.
Well,
and I think fantasy football had a lot to do with that.
No doubt. No doubt. And now, right, it's been passed that you can legally gamble. So Pennsylvania, I think Jersey has done it, Delaware, they've all now legalized sports betting. And so now that's taken off, and I think you're going to see. And I hope our state, Minnesota, it jumps in. I mean, not to have people lose their money, or I'm not a big fan of Indian casinos because I just think it's ruining a lot of families and stuff. Even though I'm a gambler, I do think the state needs to step in and play or participate in this betting because it's happening. It's happening online, and it's happening through local bookies. So you might as well get your piece of the pie, state. Go out and do something and make some money. So I think it'll be more and more prevalent.
Well, maybe. Now, what do you think about legalization of marijuana?
I've never been a weed smoker. It makes me a big dope. Even when growing up as a high school kid, I would get it, and I kind of go electric sometimes, where I just kind of a big dope. And then I was up at a friend's cabin in July, and we were going to this music festival called Moon Dance. And one of the guys up there, my age type of guy, he had one of these little pens. Vape pens or something? Yeah. So, and there's oil in there. So I said, all right, I'll give it a whirl.
And it's the THC oil.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I do it, and I take a hit, and I'm like, you know what, that was all right. Well, then I take a couple more, and then I'm back to being a big dope again. I just stand there at the concert. So I'm not a big weed guy.
Yeah.
But
how about legalization of it? I mean, the state could get their piece.
Yep.
People that want to smoke it could do it legally without being, incarcerated or, some kind of, paying fines.
I have a good friend that lives in Denver, Mike, and he said it's the worst thing that's happened out there in Colorado, and here's why. He said, you can't believe the homelessness. And it's not because they're buying weed. It's people moving out there that don't have jobs, and they're going to go out there, these young the ski bums and stuff. And, weed's legal. I'm going to go out there, be able to smoke my weed out in public, and this, that, and the other thing. And he said the homelessness, and then also the hospitals. For whatever reason, I didn't know you could OD on weed. Maybe you can't, but they get more people coming into the hospitals with weed-related situations. So he said it's been a nightmare for Colorado. Do they get tax dollars? Yeah, they do. But in his opinion, it was not a good situation. But now I think a buddy of mine just called me with a stock tip on one for Canada, and I think it's going legal in Canada October 1st. I think that's coming up here in the next 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah. So you just gave away your stock tip, though.
Yeah,
Canadian marijuana companies.
Yeah, it was what was it, CMB something or another, but I wasn't doing too good. After I started watching it, it was down 13%. So
Right.
so I don't know. They must
buy low, sell high.
They have a bad crop or something.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? So let me ask you another question. You've talked about I'm going to cut that out too, but in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
marijuana is legal.
Yeah.
They don't have the homeless problem. They don't have issues with that you're talking about in Colorado. And so I'm trying to figure out what the difference is. Maybe it's to society. Maybe it's something that's brand new. But over there, it's just big deal.
Yeah.
And I
like
don't...
drinking a beer, right? So
Yeah,
like having a beer.
Go to the coffee shop, you go get your joint, you smoke it, you relaxed. It's not a big deal. Here, I've seen where the legalization of it is similar to you, is that you attract a certain element.
Yeah.
And that element may not be what a state or a city wants to attract. All because of one thing, marijuana. So I don't know. I go back and forth on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a weed smoker, as I said, so I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I think it's coming. It seems to be expanding.
Absolutely. It does.
So I don't...
More and more states are doing it. California just did it as well.
But it was interesting in Colorado, too, that because it's a federal crime, everything has to be done with cash. So all these weed shops out there, they can't accept credit cards. They can't, do this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can't put this money in banks because it's illegal federally still. So it's still against the law federally,
So
right?
it's a
Federal
cash
law.
business.
It's a cash business. So that's created a few armed robberies and stuff at these dispensaries. So a little bit of other set of problems again, So yeah, it's an all cash business.
Fix one thing, you break another.
Yeah,
You know
there you
how that
go.
works. So let me ask you, you don't smoke weed. I don't like smoking pot anymore either.
Yeah.
So, but how about drinks? What's your favorite cocktail?
Oh, my favorite's whiskey. I'm a whiskey guy. So I would say an old fashioned. Maker's Mark Old Fashioned is one of my favorites. But I drink probably more vodka than anything.
Really?
Yeah, more of a vodka guy. Beer, boy, when I was a kid, that's all we drank was a lot of beer. And anymore, I have 2-3 beers, I get so friggin' bloated and just can't drink beer anymore. Yeah, so.
Now I know that's basically what Fawcett drinks is beer.
That's it.
What was it? A Coors Light, a Mick Golden
No, he's
Light?
Mick Golden Light.
Mick Golden
yeah.
Light.
I stopped by his house last night. He did have a Coors Light for me, so I was impressed.
Wow, he's moving
came
on
out and had a
down,
Coors
I
Light. Yeah.
So did you tell him you were going to do this podcast?
I did. Matter of fact, he was calling in when my phone was buzzing earlier. That was him calling in. Yeah.
What did he say? Because I haven't told Todd I'm doing this.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. He seemed like he knew. So he's
Really?
like, what are you guys going to talk about? And that type of thing. So, yeah, he was aware and.
Oh, maybe because I've been throwing it on Facebook or something. That
Maybe that's it. Yeah. Yeah, because he seemed like it wasn't like, really, what's Mike got going on?
Right.
So.
I'm not a big social media guy, but I'm doing it basically to push this show and push other things that I'm trying to do, with podcasts. And I just think social media in itself it's too easy. You don't have the rub. There's people on there that will attack people politically,
Right.
the left and the right,
Yeah.
and you've got everybody is, instead of being in the middle, you're starting to split politically,
Yeah.
socially, economically. It's all just, and I think it goes back to social media.
Yeah.
I really do.
I tell you, I think this country's divided, and I think about myself. I'm not going to go the other way. And I'm sure the people that are on the opposite side of me are saying the same thing. And I'm more divided and more opinionated and more disgusted with the side I oppose than I've ever been. And I don't know where that leaves our country. I don't know who's going to put it back together like Reagan did, right? It's certainly not going to be Trump, although I'll give away which side I like. I like the job he's doing. I don't, sometimes his delivery of messages and his name calling and stuff, I wish he would not do. But where he's putting America first and he's renegotiating these trade contracts, I love what he's doing. He's done a great job, in my opinion. So I think these midterm elections are going to be absolutely intriguing.
I think it's going to be a free-for-all.
Yeah.
I think both sides are gunning up, and it's going to be a nightmare for whoever has the most ammo.
Yeah,
And,
I think,
and we don't know who that is yet.
no, and even as you look at the left, they're getting so far extreme to the left, right? The Barry Sanders and that Orcazo young lady out east somewhere, they're getting so extreme to the left.
I think his name is Bernie, but Barry was a good
Or
running
Bernie.
back.
Yes. I'm thinking
It's
about
still
betting.
football, yeah.
I was still thinking about betting.
Hey,
but,
Bernie Sanders had some of the best moves out there in the field.
yeah.
'Cause
In the 80-year-old league.
yeah. In fact, the guy I had on last night was he just met with Bernie Sanders. So, the 6 degrees of whatever it is of Kevin Bacon,
Sure.
it's to you now with Bernie Sanders.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Anyways.
it'll be interesting, Mike. It'll be interesting to see in November what happens. I kind of think that the Dems may pick up the House. I think the Republicans are going to pick up a seat or two in the Senate, and we'll have gridlock, and hopefully that's what Wall Street likes, and the march upward on the market continues.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. 'Cause
We'll see.
I don't know the answer because
Yeah.
I think that Trump is more divisive than anybody.
Oh, no question.
But Hillary would have been too.
Yeah,
I mean, she would have. See, I voted for Trump, but I could not vote for Hillary.
right.
I could not do
I
it.
could not either.
I could not fathom actually checking or whatever you do on the ballot box. Her.
Mike, can you imagine? Just think about this. All this Manafort, all this Cohen stuff, right? Trump's attorney. That all came off with the special counsel able to go in and look at all this crap based off a fake Russian dossier. That is going to be proven was paid for by the Clintons and whoever else, some are cronies.
It's already been proven.
Right.
It's not. That's a no.
Okay, so now they can dig in and find all this other shit that's gone on. Can you imagine if you had that flexibility and to get into the Clintons' life and go dig through all their stuff with some fake dossier that was for national security issues? We have to check this out. If you could get into the Clintons' lives, oh my goodness, the stuff you would find there.
Well, supposedly, based on rumor that throughout the last 30 years or 20 years of the Clintons' power reign, they've actually had a lot of rumors of murders,
People greased,
and,
yeah.
things like that. So it's not something that they want,
Right.
Because they're scared to hell, and you don't see them pushing a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah.
Even if they're getting older. Bill Clinton looks like hell.
And even when he talks, his voice is so weak, and yeah, he's not looking good.
What is he, like 68?
Oh no! God, I bet you he's late 70s would be my guess.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, that would be.
Well,
that
he
would
looks
be my guess.
horrible.
Yeah.
You look at George Bush. He's got to be late 60s too, and he looks pretty good.
Yeah, he does, and stays in shape, and that's he's had a good run. He quit drinking. That's why he looks so good.
Well,
That's what he got rid of the booze.
Well, he got rid of the booze a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's why he looks as good as he does. Bill Clinton's actually 72. I just looked it up.
Okay.
72. He turned 72 in August, and I'd say for 72,
I'm going to tell you, my
rushed.
dad is 78,
Yeah,
and my dad looks 20 years younger than Bill Clinton.
yeah.
And it's just he does not look good.
No, and he had some heart problems, right? I think.
He had some stints put
Yeah,
in.
yeah. So he had a little bit of heart.
One guy we don't hear about anymore is Cheney.
That's
What happened to him? I mean, he disappeared. I mean,
He's
because he had a
off the face of
big
the
power base there for a long time.
Yeah, he's off the. Yeah, he really hasn't. He hasn't made any comments or anything. So I would agree with you. I don't know where Dick is.
All right. So there's a joke there, but I'm going to leave it alone. So we've had about an hour and 20 minutes of chatting.
Really?
Yeah. It's actually more, you got here at 3, or just at 3, so it's 4:20 right now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, with all out of this conversation will be cut out.
Right,
Obviously. But,
right.
Is there anything else you want to bring up? I mean, do you want to bring up how youth sports is just a big payday for all these people, like Dakota Rev?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. I paid for that for years.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, the Rev hockey, Rev football, or soccer.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And now they just what they just changed their name to. They combined with Woodbury, and they renamed themselves. What the hell is it? It's very Mexican sounding.
God, I'm glad I'm not involved in that.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah, we changed. My daughter, her last year, she left Rev. We'd had enough. And we went to Egan. We had a great year. Had a lot of fun.
My oldest daughter, Marie, went over to Egan and
Did
played
she?
on those,
Yeah.
those teams, and they won state championships left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a good run this
It's
year.
a good deal because,
Yeah.
she grew up with all those girls, and then we moved over to Inver Grove.
Yeah.
All right, so 1, 2, 3. So let me ask you about youth sports. We've got soccer, hockey, and it seems like they pilfer money out of everybody just in the name of club, in the
Yeah.
name of what are the words that I want to use, like premier.
Yeah.
All these words that they throw out that they think adds more money to their cause. And you have these 25-year-old coaches who literally don't do much besides coach soccer. But the programs, they don't really excel when you get outside of, the people that are really good that go and play for the national teams and stuff. They're not part of these clubs.
Right.
They're an elite, and I've seen it where these sports teams, just youth sports, they just don't make sense for a lot of kids anymore.
Well, boy, you think back to when we were. It was neighborhoods, right? Your neighborhood would play the other neighborhoods and stuff, and your sign-up fee was maybe $15, and you got a T-shirt, and you brought your own cleats, and away you'd go, right?
And you had a dad coach.
Yeah, you had the dad's coach, and everybody kind of took their turn. Now you have team managers that do all the collecting of the money, and I've got a daughter. She just played what I was hoping was going to be her last year at U18 club soccer. And the fact of the matter is that cost us about $12,000.
Oh yeah.
She's not going to play in college. Now she wants to play one more year, or U19, which a lot of kids don't. Usually the kids that are going to go play soccer will play the U19. So there's another $12,000. By the time all the fees, then the travel, right? They do these away trips and these college showcases, and it's gotten ridiculous. I don't know how families with 2 or 3 kids wanting to play this club level sports can afford it. It's ridiculous.
One of my beefs with the youth sports, especially soccer, is that I had a daughter that played hockey and soccer, and they tried to squeeze her out of playing hockey because they wanted her year round. And they would use the things, the words like she needs to go full year to compete with everybody else. But I always thought it was bullshit because I knew that they wanted a full year of payment.
Yeah.
They wanted a full year of us paying our monthly dues, your field time, your coach's fees,
Dome
all of
time
that
in the
stuff.
winter,
Yep,
and yeah,
exactly.
it's
They want
insane.
that full year, and that always drove me insane because it's a money grab. It's not really about making the kids better.
Well, and here's the problem too. I think, Mike, when you get these kids specializing, that there's so many more injuries than when we were kids, and it's because of the repetition, right? They do the same thing. We were kids. We would go from baseball season to football season, right? And then football season to hockey season. We were using different muscles and doing different things. Nowadays, you got these kids doing the same sport year after year after year, and the amount of knee injuries and stuff are insane in soccer. My daughter's got a friend that plays for Rosemount, not club, but high school. We're in the high school season right now. She's had 3 ACLs, and now she just messed up her MCL. She had a college scholarship to a Division I downtown Chicago, fantastic Catholic school, and I just don't know how she'll be able to continue. She's had 3 ACLs, and just the other night ripped up her MCL, and she's going to end up losing a scholarship to a university that costs about $50,000 a year. So that's going to cost her parents $200,000 if she wants to continue to go to that school.
So now did she sign a letter of intent?
I don't. Now, last night my daughter had a game, and I was talking to another parent, and he said that the university told her not to worry about it, that they were going to continue to give her the scholarship. I don't know
if you sign
where
a
she
letter of
signed.
intent,
Okay.
then the school is on the hook.
Okay, well, maybe
So
that's
she
obviously
may
what
not play
happened.
soccer. They may make her like the manager or a practice squad person. But
Gotcha.
They will still pay a portion or all of whatever they agreed to.
Whatever the deal was.
But if she hadn't signed it was a verbal, they could just walk.
They can walk.
Yeah.
So she must have signed because they said that don't worry about it. You're still going to get your scholarship. But she's got to be done. I mean, this is an 18-year-old girl that's had 3 ACLs, MCL.
Oh, she's done.
She's got to worry about the rest of her life chasing her kids around, right? Soccer's not that damn important.
Well, to some people it is.
Well, it shouldn't be
Yeah,
that
exactly.
important than an 18-year-old's body getting
I would
torn
get
up.
back up to where we were as kids, where we played all different sports. We did, weightlifting in the summer. We did, we'd go out and have fun at night. There wasn't this extreme
Right.
focus on one thing
Yep.
that you do it 24/7. And I think that I go back and I think it was the Tiger Woods era, where people said, "Oh, he golfed. He was a little kid and he was a protege. My kid can do that."
Right.
And I think that's where it all kind of started. And that's right when my kids were, growing up.
Yeah, and then you got the Williams sisters, right? Tennis. They
Yeah,
were the same kind of
exactly.
thing. They did a 60 Minutes deal on those two when they were 7 and 8 years old out in Compton, California. And 60 Minutes went out and did it, and then look at, sure enough, they produced, right? And they're two of the best tennis players. I mean, Serena is arguably the best women's tennis player ever, and still going.
Yeah, but you have the other extreme too, where you have that, I can't remember his name right now, but he was
Todd Marinovich.
Bingo, you knew.
Yep.
His dad pushed him, he pushed him and pushed him, and the guy's basically
He's a drug addict.
He's a drug addict. He's
yep.
homeless half the time.
Yep.
I've read about Ryan Leaf
Yep.
and his drug addiction, at prison time,
Yep.
and how that's just, so you also have that.
Yeah. A lot more of those
Oh,
than the Tiger
absolutely.
Woods and the Serena and
Absolutely.
Venus Williams, right?
Absolutely.
A lot more of those,
Todd
unfortunately.
Marinovich. I can't believe you remembered his name because
Yeah.
it was just on the tip of my tongue. But
Kid
he-
never had a McDonald's hamburger in his life.
I bet you he's had a few now.
Now he has, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, his dad, I mean, he just pushed him to no end, and he was a failure in the NFL, and then the train went off the tracks after that. One quick story before we go here, Mike, you just thought of. So I've lived in the same house for 30 years, okay? So October 1 will be 30 years. I had the house built, and so I've been in the neighborhood a long time, have a lot of good friends in the neighborhood. We all like to have cocktails and have some fun. So my buddy that lives down on the frontage road, it's just, it's maybe a quarter mile from my house, if that. And I was at another neighbor's house, cocktailing, having a good time. Pete calls me and he goes, "Hey," he said, "get down here." He said, "We're down in the bar or in the basement. Just come on in." He said, we're having beers. So I waddle down there and I go in, and Pete's a retired cop from Hennepin County. So I go in there and I bust open the front door. I'm like, "Don't shoot, Pete, it's me." I was in the wrong house, and the guy that was in that house was sitting there making out with a girlfriend, a wife, or something. And the look on his face when I busted the front door, and I'm sure the look on my face, and I'm like, "Holy smoke!" So I shut the door, I run next door, and I said, "Pete, you better go talk to your neighbor." I said, I just busted in on him.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
That's
isn't that
a
funny?
great story.
Yeah, that's no bullshit. That was funny.
One
story.
other thing that I wanted to talk to you about that I just remembered was, I remember at one point you were going to try to buy a golf course.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And how did that work out? What was the pluses and minuses with that?
Not very good. So this golf course is right by my house, and it's what do they call them? Executive, like a par
It's a
63.
Parkview golf
yeah,
course,
Parkview
isn't it?
golf course. Yep. So par 63. It was going to be sold for a housing development, and everybody was up in arms, right? We liked looking over at the golf course, seeing the golf course, and we tried to stop it. So I said, "Hey, if we can get it for a fair price, I'll buy it. And my family and I will run it. If we can turn a fair profit, we'll continue to keep it open." Because a lot of people used it, right? There were 3 state champions from the local high schools, the Egan, Eastview, that had grown up on that course, that had played that, and they ended up being state champion high school golfers. So we had the high school coaches in there and stuff at the city council meeting. And it didn't go good, Mike. The mayor just made me look like a complete asshole, and he and I still don't see eye to eye. I had words with him one night in a saloon. I went up to him and I said, I hate your fucking guts. I said, I want you to punch me in the face so I can rip your head off. He was the mayor. He was the mayor.
I have a feeling, that he didn't take you up on that challenge.
Nope, he didn't. And, it's too bad. I mean, I shouldn't be doing shit like that. But I was so upset how bad he made me look. And all I was doing was trying to buy a golf course at a fair price for a golf course. Now, they got way more money for the land. And the funny thing is, the guy that was going to be the developer, he sold the city a bag of shit, right, bag of goods. He literally got the okay to make that, the zone it for housing. He sold it the next day to D.R. Horton for $8.5 million. He turned a $5 million profit one day.
Okay. Well, we're going to conclude with a shot.
Let's do it.
All right. And, I really appreciate you coming in and, giving me some good stories and being part of this, because this is a crapshoot on whether this will succeed or not. But you know what? You've helped it greatly with your great stories. And I think we should talk about a podcast for you down the road.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, Mike. I loved this. It was fantastic, and I would love to do it again. And I think there's something there. It'd be dependent on, once it gets out there, if you get any interest on some of that sports. Because last night, literally, I had 2 guys call, and I said, I think Baltimore's going to win, but based on the line, I'd bet Cincinnati.
Oh,
and sure shit,
I think your track record, you've proven that you know what you're doing, and I think that's something where I think we will have you come back on, and maybe in your retirement you could turn this into something that would be something. It's your passion.
Yeah.
You know it is.
Yeah.
It's your passion. It's what you like doing. It's what you like thinking about, and to me, follow your passions because it'll always lead to something good.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike, I'm kind of shallow. Sex, alcohol, and gambling, man. But I'm a happy son of a bitch. That's the only passions I have.
With that, thank you, man. This has been great. You're not shy.
I never read it in a book. I never saw it on a show. But